Hello, Clarice. So we're going to continue on talking about slavery. And here we have President Dump right here. And so
Dump!
I'm going to go over some things that lessons that I have been shared. But I want to start with this. When you hear black people sold black people into slavery, that is a play on words. It's confusion. It's like saying a Mexican sold a Mexicans into slavery. When we know that there are many different races of people here, the correct saying is authentic Africans, Ethiopians, Egyptians, Libyans, Somalians, and a few others that are from Noah's son Ham sold Negroes. Non-African because we come from Shem, not Ham. We ran into Africa after being persecuted, but we are from Israel into slavery. So, yes, authentic Africans sold Negroes into slavery to the Arabs first, which is how so many of us became Muslims, which is a construct by the Satan's church, the Roman Catholic Church. There was no Islam before the 7th century. There was no Quran. You get mad all you want to, but you can Google this and you will see that there was no Islam before the 7th century. And that's because the Roman Catholic Church came in, and I've already given a backstory on that. If you want to watch the video, you'll have to go back and watch the videos. And then to whites, which is how many of us became Christians in regards to the Roman Catholic Church. Okay, so let's go here. When our people was in slavery, the slave masters would hold the book just like Dump as they beat us and did other horrible things. They never read from it, and they would not let us read from it. When I say they never read from it, they never read the truth from it. They only read certain scriptures. And if you've been following along in the series, I've already had conversations about those said scriptures, like Ephesians 6, 5 through 9. I talked about that on the first video, I believe. And so, did Israel have slaves? We had servants. It's a difference. We did not call them slaves. We knew what it was like to be slaves, and the Most High made sure that we would never treat others like that. Some were paid. Think of Jeffrey, a Fresh Prince type of situation. I also remember these dudes named Glenn or Bo that did work for my family even. Rest in peace. Those servants who were not paid became servants because they fell on hard times. Back then, you could work for a family, even sell yourself to that family for life. They were still not beaten nor mistreated. Read Leviticus 25, King James Version. All in there is talking about after a certain period of time, we had to set our servants free. We had to even give back we had to even give back their possessions. Excuse me. If they were still in a bad financial state, we had to restore them. We did not treat our servants how we were treated as slaves and how we will be treated in the future by our brother Esau, the white man, in regards to American chattel slavery. We did not do that. If we, because people make mistakes, did, those people was in trouble according to the consequences of their actions In the law of the Most High, there was laws. Hello, love thy neighbor as thyself against that type of behavior established by the Most High. It's crazy how many don't read the Bible, and those who do read don't fully understand what they are reading, even after 20 plus years. Comprehension, the lack thereof. Oh, wait. That was back in 2020. Oh, so I guess this will be the proof that I have been saying stuff like this. So then when you see posts like this from today, see, these came from the first video. These all came from the first video. This is why I would find myself asking these people questions like, are we reading the same Bible? How can you claim to have read this Bible for 20 plus years but never came across Acts 18 through 21? That shows Paul keeping the law. How don't you understand scriptures like Ephesians 6 verses 5 through 9, King James Version, because the NIV is trash. Throw it away. It's not talking about Mexican chattel slavery. Our ancestors not only fought and died for our right to vote, but to be able to read too. Jewel Santana. See? Here we go. Y'all let it go to Leviticus when it's on the gays. Here we go. Here we go, though. In the year of this Jubilee ye shall return every man unto his possession. And if thou sell aught unto thy neighbor, or buyest aught of thy neighbor's hand, ye shall not oppress one another. That's the difference. See, this is how you know that this nation was built off of Christian values and not biblical values, because the Bible doesn't teach Christianity. It actually condemns Christianity. But I put this in a different context, in a different version, the ERV, the easy to read version, for you, because I want to read this. Nobody really likes to talk about how fair God is, though. For real, for real. It says, don't cheat your neighbors when you sell your land to them. Don't cheat one another when you buy or sell land. Is that happening today? You got whole people that's secret societies and, conspiracy theories that's pretty much saying, in certain parts, California and Hawaii, that fires are being started to burn these people's homes up, so the other entities, the government and their friends, can come in and buy up all the land. Now, I'm not saying it's true or not, but I'm saying, I know I'm not the only one that's heard this. But if that's the case, isn't that going against what this is saying here in Leviticus 25? If you want to buy your neighbor's land, count the number of years since the last Jubilee and use that number to decide the right price. You are only, listen to this part. So you're not buying the land like, oh, I own this land, forever. No, listen to this. You are only buying the rights for harvesting crops until the next Jubilee. If there are many years before the next Jubilee, the price will be high. If the years are few, the price will be lower. So your neighbor is really only selling a number of crops to you. At the next Jubilee, the land will again belong to that family. You must not cheat each other. You must honor your God. I am the Lord your God. But according to some people, oh, God condones slavery and, and taking captives and stuff. But what about when God is like this and he telling the people, this is what you do. But the people decide to go off. And you see it today. Like, for instance, with these shady homeowners associations. I seen a story where the homeowner, the president of the homeowners association, she was doing all kind of shady stuff to one of the people. Woman just had lost her husband, was having some real financial issues. And so her yard was out of control. Lady was going, filing ordinance on her and citation after citation. They end up on all these citations. She owed her $8,000. Trying to get this lady's home taken, so she can come in and possess it. That goes against this. Everything is spiritual. This is why the housing market is the way it is. It's in shambles. Because God set things in a certain way and how it was supposed to go. Even in land, He created the land. And so the rules that He set forth should be followed. But are they today? We all know the answer to that. I've shown you videos where I think it was 60 Minutes. They even did a investigation on couples facing appraisal discrimination. The appraisers come out, see it's a black person, they value the house low. But then when a black person remove all their valuables, their pictures and everything else and make it look like a white person they live in, oh, it's more than doubled. I've shown this on video already. The people who are in control, the elite, the 1%, these people are not God's people. These people don't follow the ways of God, because if they did, they will restore. I keep telling y'all, why is it black people, the real Jews, are the only ones who ain't gotten reparations? Everybody else been given reparations. It's a reason for that. As an example, on the way to Canaan, God tells His people through Moses that the alien or foreigner among them should not be oppressed. Exodus 23, verse 9. The reason given is fascinating. The people of Israel know in their hearts how it feels to be oppressed. The word translated alien is not the same as slave, but the experience of the Israelites in Egypt was certainly that of slaves. Thus, we see the first statement on human rights. The alien was to be treated as a citizen. In fact, he was to be loved as one of their own. Leviticus 19, 33 through 34. Even when Hebrew law and custom shared in the common heritage of the ancient world, there's a unique care in God's name for those people who by status were not considered people, something absent from the codes of Babylon and Assyria. Let's take a closer look at what verse a person would use to justify them not reading the Bible because of slavery. Exodus 21, 20 through 21. If a man beats his male or female slave with a club and the slave dies as a result, the owner must be punished. But if the slave recovers within a day or two, then the owner shall not be punished, since the slave is his property. Now, why would this verse be here? Let's say you hired a butler, and one day you walk in and catch him or her stealing. Wasn't no police back then. They would be formed later to catch us and bring us back when we escaped the plantation owned by the Jewish people. I like to think of the police as the same today. They just practicing, quote unquote, until that day they can try to put us in a camp of some sort. They go out and seek Negro, Native, and Latinos to round them up and bring them back to the plantation, prison, jail. Ooh, baby. I said this back in 2020. And guess who is the Islamic Chinese enforcement? ICE. What's going on today? All financial gain. Many of our own wealthy people have their hands in blood money. I call it that too. I think I should say all for financial gain. Many of our own wealthy people have their hands in blood money. I call it that too. The real shade is the rappers who are involved and how they came together in a meeting to do so. They agreed to stop making conscious rap like Nas. They got rid of Tupac and Big, all in order to bring in dummies like Cash Money and Migos. They can't even talk. What the hell is a Wody? These rappers agreed to dumb us down, influence the sagging, dishonor of our women. Ladies, same thing. Thanks, Trina. Guess you really didn't know, Nan. And the black on black and Latino on Latino gang culture murder. Murder was the case that they gave them. The murder of the intelligence in the black man and woman. When you take part in a plan to make money off your own people by imprisoning them on trumped up charges, yeah, that's blood money. And Nicki Minaj too. It's so crazy how, you're backing Dump and you're talking about being a Christian and Christian values and things of that nature, but the image that you have portrayed for young black girls in your lyrics, in your songs, you don't feel a way about, the lyrics that you have perpetuated because it was all lies anyway. I knew that she was never a lesbian. I knew she probably never had a menage in her life. I knew that she was a family woman, that she was I knew it was an act. I knew it was an act. It was just an act to gain the support of the LGBTQIA. And now y'all all feel away. But I've been said this. Anyway, I do still think she deserves a Grammy though. And you cannot discredit, this is still our culture. It's still, rap music is still our culture. But I don't feel bad about calling this stuff out. It is what it is. It has been detrimental to our race. R.I.P. Khalif Browder and countless others like him, whom we will never know their stories or name. So what? They have black officers. It was black coons back then too. They were scared to escape and even told on Miss Harriet Tubman and others trying to escape because misery loves company. Taps mic, hello, is this thing on? Let's be very clear about something here. The text does not say you can beat your slave to within an inch of his life. It says if you beat a slave. Remember those comprehension skills I was talking about earlier? Yeah, you kind of need those when reading the Bible. So to say that the text endorses slave brutality is a very morbid and twisted way to look at it. We must be careful not to nuance this passage in a way that was never intended. Still, the text does stand out as rather appalling to a modern reader. Most Old Testament commands about slaves are quite the opposite. Take Deuteronomy 15:12 through 18, for example. If your brother, a Hebrew man or a Hebrew woman, is sold to you, he shall serve you 6 years, and in the 7th year you shall let him go free from you. And when you let him go free from you, you shall not let him go empty-handed. You shall furnish him liberally out of your flock, out of your threshing floor, and out of your winepress. As the Lord your God has blessed you, you shall give to him. You shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt, and the Lord your God redeemed you. Therefore I command you this today. But if he says to you, I will not go out from you because he loves you and your household, since he is well off with you, then you shall take an awl and put it through his ear into the door, and he shall be your slave forever. And to your female slave you shall do the same. It shall not seem hard to you when you let him go free from you. For at half the cost of a hired worker, he has served you 6 years. So the Lord your God will bless you in all that you do. Verses like these can be useful to help us understand the culture of slavery, quote unquote, back then. It's remarkably different from how many of us have come to understand it in the West. In fact, the word for slave in Hebrew is the same word for servant. It's even translated as royal official in 1 Kings 1 through 9, NIV and ESV. I do not recommend the NIV or any other version but the King James Version. I will use the easy to read version like when I do videos like this. But before I show it, I make sure I read it to make sure that it's given the same context as the King James Version. Because sometimes in specific verses, it doesn't. It says something like different. It gives a different meaning for the scripture. But even with a more optimistic outlook on slavery, let's not kid ourselves. Owning somebody is wrong. And even with passages like the one above, we cannot simply use it as a crowbar to pry Exodus 21, verses 20 through 21 out of our Bible. So let us tackle this challenging verse head on. Here's the thing. The law of Moses, Genesis through Deuteronomy, and all of the commandments contained within is not always a description of morality or even what God views as morally right. So even if Exodus 21 verses 20 through 21 endorses slave brutality, it does not mean that God endorses slave brutality. This is so important to understand. Yeshaya explains it this way. Because of your hardness of heart, Moses allowed you to divorce your wives, but from the beginning it was not so. Matthew 19, verse 8. The law was designed in order to be something attainable for the Israelites who were so accustomed to the evil culture we were raised in. As Moses said in Deuteronomy 30, verse 11, now what I am commanding you today is not too difficult for you or beyond your reach. The Apologetic Study Bible Notes have this to say about Exodus 21, 20 through 21. The Bible does not condone slavery any more than it condones polygamy or divorce. Instead, it establishes humane limits for an existing evil system. The law of Moses laid the groundwork for the eventual demise of one of the most demeaning institutions in human society. The difference between your pastors of today and slave masters back then is in modern time, which is today. At least the pastor will read one to a couple verses to you and then give you their opinion they learned from a seminary theologian who taught them wrong on purpose, so it's not their fault all the way. Also today, you can read the Bible for yourselves, but only about 30% of you actually do. It's crazy how many people don't read, and those who do read don't fully understand what they are reading. Look at this ugly motherfucker. Just ugly. I already showed this on one of the videos, but it needs to be showed again. Slavery was not abolished in Mississippi until 1995, and even then, it wasn't put into law until 2013. 2013! In 2025. So that's 12 years ago? Y'all, do you not understand this? Do you not understand what this is saying? So when you have white men, some of these white men, oh yeah, well, we ended it. We ended slavery. That's a lie. That's a lie. Not only did you continue slavery, what, through your 13th Amendment, when you become a a property, of the state, then you're a slave. Pretty much, you have to do for labor, and then even some people would even be okay with that. But then when you bring in the private prison industry and how you've targeted and aimed this at one people, just like the black codes, is nothing. Years from now, people are going to be saying, well, the black codes was continued all the way up until 2025 with, I mean, they changed the name, but it's the same system as the black codes because, I mean, look, they use the music to target and to promote violence to them, and and what do you think happened? You have people like Khalif Browder who didn't even do anything. He didn't do anything. He didn't do anything, man. I'm talking like a white person. He just didn't do anything. And I mean, this government's so fucking wrong, man. So yeah, I show this all the time. And people be really shocked because a lot of people do not know this. A lot of black people don't even know this. Oh, but they knew Candy and Todd wasn't gonna make it. They knew that. Oh, they know that. They know when the next 5 pair of J's is gonna come out. Oh, they know that. Can't name 5 black kings or 5 black queens, but they know when them Jordans gonna come out. They're gonna be right in line to pay $255 for a shoe that costs about $25 to $30 to make for a man that does not even play basketball anymore. Mm, mm, mm. That is a blind people. Blind. So glad I'm 38 years old, never worn a pair of Jordans, and I'm not broke. I make good money. I could afford some Jordans. Especially this month. I could afford them Gammas that came out if I really wanted them. I could have went and got them. But no, because it's a personality that come with that shoe. I don't care what nobody say. You see, they got golds in their mouth, and they got Jordans on their feet, even if they have dreads. But especially if they have dreads, get away from them. Sorry. Not sorry. And I know that's a stereotype, but guess what? An ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib, but Israel doth not consider. My people do not consider. But Israel doth not know. My people do not consider. Yeah, Jordan wearers. This is them. These will grow up to wear Jordans. See? Jordan wearers. All these people wear Jordans. Now all these, they will be out here, right? On this corner. All got on Jordans. No life insurance. No apartment of their own. No car. If they got a car, the driver's license is not legal. Or they don't have insurance. Or both. The police even know this. They even know this. They make jokes about it. pull over a black man, 9 times out of 10, the driver's license or the insurance or both. Come on, man. Let's get it. Whose children are standing on the corners of the streets, the block, as some may call it, selling drugs, gambling, inspiring? Who doing that? What race of people fill the jails, aka modern day slavery? Isaiah 42, verse 22, Deuteronomy 28 and 23. In the Negro community, aren't women the head of the home? Isaiah 3, verse 12. Harmful vaccines that led to all types of mental illness in the Negro, Native, and Latino communities. Deuteronomy 28, verse 28, and you need to go back and read Genesis 27 and 41. Okay, I want to just point this out. See how the meaning, what I mean by the meaning has take. No, this just make it seem like. See, this verse 41 just make it seem like, oh, Esau just said to himself, oh yeah, no. This man made a decree with he said in his heart, and Esau said in his heart.
Expressing sincere emotional truths, which can differ from what you rationally think. It's about connecting your inner feelings with your outer expression, showing honesty, and speaking from your core self.
It signifies honesty, emotion, and inner truth, like feeling something is right, even if your head disagrees, representing a heartfelt, genuine, non logical knowing or speaking from your core self. It's about connecting your inner world of emotions, your heart, with your outer expression, what you say. So even if your head disagrees, this is why I like the King James Version, because these other versions, it kind of takes the meaning out of it. Like this man said this, like this was something great to him. He felt like we stole his blessing. So that's how you got number 4. Negro women as a whole having the issues growing their hair and why some smell so fishy down there. Not trying to be funny. Isaiah 3, 16 through 26. Who has the highest rates of cancer, mental illness, diabetes, STDs, sickle cell, and many more diseases? Deuteronomy 28, 59 through 62. What other people went into captivity on slave ships like the transatlantic slave trade? Deuteronomy 28, 68. In this country, who lends to who? What color is the people in the ghettos primarily? What color are the majority that work on Wall Street, stock market, the bankers? Deuteronomy 28, 36, 37, 43, and 44. Now, this guy right here, Cam James, I think. Because I told you I watched this video. See, look, the fact checking the Hebrew Israelites, ISUPK, which is I have no problems with that because those guys definitely need to be fact checked. They're clowns. And IUIC. And see, if I was a hater, if I was biased, I wouldn't even show who I was talking about. I wouldn't show the videos. He has other videos on here and stuff too. You know, I don't hate him. You know what I'm saying? But I do think he's biased in his work. So let's take a look at some facts, some literature. Black Jews in Africa and the America by Tudor Parfit, page 111. There are both oral and written explanations that trace the origin of the Igbo people, and the most tantalizing is an association of the Igbo to the Hebrew race. This assumption is based on the fact that Igbo culture has many similar traditional customs like that of the Jews. Similar customs are observed in marriage, negotiations, childbirth and circumcision, restitution, attitude to totem animals and taboos, as well as hospitality to others, especially to strangers, etc. The Igbo are therefore said to be the split and lost group or tribe of Israel that refused to wander further northeast with Moses, but preferred going down southward. Now, when you do your research, you'll find out that the Igbo people was one of the most sought out tribes. And many people who are over here as Negroes, you will find in their lineage Igbo. These people knew who they were going after. Encyclopedia of the Jewish Diaspora, Origins, Experiences, and Culture, Volume 1, page 494, by Mark Avram Ehrlich, Professor of Judaic Studies. The Igbo people have many Jewish traditions. Naum Katz, the current Israeli ambassador in Nigeria, and others point to their possible ancient Israelite origins. It's not a possibility, it is. The scholars have done extensive, this is from me, the scholars have done extensive research on the Igbo and compared their traditions to the biblical Israelites. They came to the conclusion that their customs are strikingly similar to the biblical Israelites, and that the only way the Igbo tribe could be practicing the customs of the biblical Israelites so accurately is that they must be the biblical Israelites. Duh. Well, y'all don't say. What is the important factor between the Igbo tribe and Negroes in America? When you do your own research, you will find out that the Igbo tribe was one of the main sought out tribes that was captured and sold into slavery. Through the transatlantic slave trade, the Igbo was one of the main tribes that came to the Americas. Atlas of the Transatlantic Slave Trade, page 127, by Professor David Eltis and Professor David Richardson. The British were the major buyers before they banned their own slave traffic in 1807. And so I just want to point out Black people ruled Europe during the Dark Ages. So by this time, white people was in rule. Okay? So by the time the 1600s rolled around, the Renaissance was going on. That's when they came in, they whitewashed all the images and everything. You know, whitewashed King James, everything. And so you fast forward to this, during this time in 1807, white people was in rule. They were replaced by Portuguese and Spanish for as long as the traffic continued here. The majority of the captives were speakers of Igbo dialects. The native Africans in Europe knew exactly who they were selling. The Romans, quote, you see I have in quotations, Europeans are Satan. They started out as a snake in Genesis and grew into a dragon in Revelation. The Romans go into other people's native lands, conquering the native people in the land by killing their men and raping their women, which produced lighter-skinned offspring, mixing the races. Worst of all, after the Romans do their evil deeds, they take the history of the people they conquer. They hide, destroy, rename, change, alter, iconoclasm, aka whitewash, the indigenous people's history and records completely. This is how they did us, the true children of Israel. They stole our history and culture, claiming to be God's chosen people when they are really the synagogue of Satan. These black Christian churches don't even have a clue. They too busy collecting $420 billion in illegal tithes since the 1980s and pushing the prosperity movement. The black church is dead. God is not dealing with these churches, period. They push doctrines of laws done away with and Sunday worship, which is lawlessness. They believe they can live however they want because they are under grace. They barely read the Bible with understanding, which is why many lack the true knowledge of the doctrine of Christ. Hebrewisms of West Africa by Dr. Joseph J. Williams, page 227. Whatever may be thought of the more or less mythological traditions connected with the earliest Jews in North Africa, it is now practically an established fact that a Jewish nation, Jewish at least in faith and perhaps too in origin, long held sway south of the Sahara. So the people like the Limba, the Igbo people, they've held their traditions and customs longer than the people that's in Israel right now. Judea Trembles Under Rome by Rudolph R. Windsor states the following on the front cover of this book. The untold details of the Greek and Roman military domination of ancient Palestine during the time of Yeshaya of Galilee, page 158. The nations of the world became surprised at the visage, appearance, and low conditions of the Israelites that they put in captivity, slavery, and exile. Moreover, the Jews and Hebrews were persecuted and marred more than any other people. Not only were our ancestors sex slaves, they were the best gladiators that had taken part in bizarre games. Sex Lives of the Roman Emperor by Nigel Cawthorne, page 135. Oh, yeah, I read books. That's why I don't have time to like walk balls and stuff like that and, dive into gay culture because I like to read books and I like to learn real things, not made up things. As Emperor Domitian revived the old law banning homosexual intercourse with boys, free birth, along with many other vices, even though he continued to practice most of them himself. Of course, because that's how they are. This is Esau. This is how his ancestors are. Do as I say, not as I do. Oh, you can't do this, but yes, I will still continue to do this. He also prohibited the castration of boys. It was said that he did this because of his brother Titus' fondness for eunuchs, men whose rod had been cut off. Castrated boys were no longer to be sold to brothels or used for the purpose of prostitution, and a maximum price was fixed for those remaining in the hands of slave dealers in an attempt to discourage the practice. The emperor, however, was above the law. He kept the number for himself and he used them for sex. Of course. Of course. This is not talking about women. Edomite Romans, white men, took our men and prostituted them to other men, and many white men kept our men for sex slaves. This is why I will never date a white man. This continued into a Mexican slavery with buck breaking, in which I go into greater detail about. This is why some of you are into race play. This is spiritual. And it's very sick. Very sick. In which I go into greater detail about this act of sodomy, rape further into the book. If the so-called Negro is a part of the 12 tribes of Israel, how did they get to the west coast of Africa? Luke 21 through 24 is where Yeshaya told the 12 disciples to flee into the mountains, which led to the wilderness, also known as Africa. When they seen Jerusalem surrounded by the filthy Roman army, the mountains, he was speaking of our south of Israel, known today as the Judean Mountains. Encyclopedia of the Jewish Diaspora, Origins, Experiences, and Culture, Volume 1, page 454 by Mark Abram Ehrlich, a professor of Judaic Studies. In later centuries, this means they own people with saying this, by the way. In later centuries, Jews are believed to have settled in Western Africa during the height of the Songhai, Mali, Ghana, Canaan, Borno, Empire. According to accounts from explorers of the region, several powerful Jew families of the Songhai Empire were of Jewish origin. Some accounts place West African Jew communities in the Ando forest of Dahomey, south of Timbuktu. In the 1930s, these groups still maintained a Torah scroll written in Aramaic that had been burned into parchment with a hot iron instead of ink so it could not be changed. What does that say about that? In other words, in the 1930s, white historians Esau went to Africa and came across a remnant of Hebrew that had not been captured. These true Hebrew had in possession a Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible given to Moses, written in Aramaic, a form of the ancient Hebrew language. It is a shame that they had to burn the ink in hot iron so that the cave dweller colonialists, snakes, white devils could not tamper and change things on the scroll, trying to hide our history. From Babylon to Timbuktu by Dr. Rudolph R. Windsor. Page 90. The black Jews had an advantage over the African tribes. They carried their culture, history, laws, and written records with them. The Jews made use of every opportunity. They were an industrious and skillful people. In the Jewish Ghanaian states were found kings, princes, governors, generals, secretaries, treasurers, revenue agents, judges, architects, engineers, doctors, historians, language interpreters, mathematicians, jewelers, sculptors, masons, stone, not secret society, carpenters, painters of art, goldsmiths, leatherworkers, potters, armors, saddlers, blacksmiths, agriculturalists, etc. Whoever, white, told blacks that our ancestors were in Africa dumb, naked, and swinging from vines told lies. And I'm speaking in reference to the Hebrews that dwelled in Africa. We were and still are a prestigious people. We are royalty. We have simply lost our way. I can't speak on the authentic Africans because I am not African. Same book, page 454. The decline of the Jew communities of the West Africa, Maghreb, most likely began with the influx of Arab invaders into North Africa starting 640 and later into West Africa into 1300 and 1400 CE. Then you can read, this proves what I'm stating about Hebrews dwelling in Israel for 1300 years from the time we fled in 70 AD, which would bring us to the year 1370. I meant to say dwelling in Africa, not Israel. After the 7th century, Muhammad and his band of Muslim thugs came to the west coast of Africa with the devil's book, the shady Quran, that is the book of lies and should be burned, in one hand and a sword in their other hand. Yes, the Africans were given guns and ammo by the Europeans or the cave dwellers, because they're not really Europeans, for their part in the shady deal of turning over the Hebrews. Let's skip down. Atlas of the Transatlantic Slave Trade by Professor David Eltis and Professor David Richardson, both buyers, Europeans, and sellers, Africans, saw the people traded into captivity on the African coast as outsiders. Yeah. Now, my question after that's just some of the information that I came across. My question to people like Cam Jones and people like him, are you going to go question the Jewish people? Are you going to go question guys like this? that I'm about to play to you right now, are you going to go question the Roman Catholic Church and ask them that, well, hey, okay, so it's evidence that their first five popes were black. So why, when the sixth Pope of Rome came, whose name is Rodrigo Borgia, why did you allow him to change the image of Christ? And now we have white Jesus. Why did you allow that? And why did it have to take years for Putin to come through and to unveil what is on the walls of the churches in Russia, which is a black Madonna and a black child that symbolizes Mary and Jesus, but their real names are Miriam and Yeshaya. See, these guys are not going to go question them. They're only, to me, they're only proving that they are victims of Willie Lynch. Now, are you supposed to call out people? Yes. And so I have no qualms with them, calling out the clownness of some of these other groups that are featured. And the reason why they are featured is because when you go to them, there's a story there. When you go to other groups like a Gathering of Christ Church, or people, Watchman reports, and Deborah Yah, his wife, when you go to the reputable people, there's no story there, and you might actually get proven wrong. Not asked to convert, because we can't convert you to what you already are. If you are a Negro, you are from the tribe of Judah. It's a bloodline. It's not a religion. It's a bloodline. So we can't convert you. You already are that. Whether you agree with it or not, hey, that's your problem. That ain't got nothing to do with me. But if I see you and you are my Negro brother or my Negro sister, we's black, just know, hey, okay, you foundational black American. Well, guess what? Before that, you was a Hebrew. How you like them apples? So, yeah, let's watch this.
Africa, specifically for Ethiopia. It's come from the
Ashkenazi
word
rabbi
Kushi in Hebrew.
says
Black,
Israelites in Africa
the land of the
are the
blacks.
real Jews.
But here he says past, not in Kush, beyond Kush. This word beyond in Hebrew, me'ever. What do you hear here? Ever, ever, ever is the word Hebrew, Ivri. There is a linguistic clue here. Me'ever, you will bring the Hebrews. Me'ever lekush. Why? Because they're scattered. They're all over. They're going to come from all over. Over. What is south of Ethiopia? Zambia, Zimbabwe, South Africa, Mozambique. We can expect it. We can expect it. And here it says, Atari bat putsi. And that is important. This is an ambiguous word in the Hebrew Bible. Where is Atari bat putsi? Nobody knows. It is ambiguous place. So the rabbis came and they say to us something important. They say it's representing a region. A region. I believe it's representing all of Africa. And here it says, Yuvelun. Again, what is the word Yuvelun? Minchati, they will lead my gift. But the word lead, Yovel, is also the Hebrew word Jubilee. You see another hint here. When the Jubilee will happen? Jubilee will happen when you have an awakening in Africa. That's when it's, and where are they going to head to? And said, there will be not a shame. I believe today there is a problem with shame in the African American community. You know why people have shame? They have shame when they don't know their identity.
Wait, hold on, stop right there, Rabbi. I want you to stop right there.
Yes.
And I want you to rewind and say what you just said about not knowing your identity, because there's a big fight going on. You're here in America. I don't know if you understand this side of it, but there are many African Americans who are waking up to their identity, who they are, but they're also receiving a pushback from the other side, from the Christian community, about their identification of who they are. So I want you to touch on that again, just in case people didn't hear that, what you just said, and how important that.
Getting pushback from the dumbasses. The same dumbasses that collected $420 billion since the 1980s. That is $9,333,333,333.33. And we want to know, where has the money went to? Because you still have Juanita buying that hoe, who is a Jezebel running amok, scamming people, twisting the word of God. You still have Slow Marvin asking people to stand in the $1,000 plus $1,000 line. All of this is, they're leading you away. They're going against the scriptures, Matthew 6, 1 through 4. But nobody pays any attention to that. Oh, but the Hebrew Israelites are racist. Man, get out of here. Get out of here. You are being scammed in these churches. They're molesting you at record numbers. Look at all the priests and the pastors that's getting outed. Who you think doing this outing? God? God is showing you the people that you have put above him for years. Because that's how many of you act in the church. Like, you treat those people like they are your God. And then you get mad at me for pointing it out to you. You black men that are preachers and pastors, you want to wear the little white retarded collar, looking like a Catholic priest. But then when I point it out, oh, I'm wrong. I'm the villain. Why? Because I'm telling you the truth. And I'm making you see you're the villain. You're the wolf in sheep's clothing. You're the one that's choosing to get scammed every time you go to that building. Let's pull these scriptures out. These people can't even explain to you how they got 3 days and 3 nights from Friday morning or Friday midday, even worse, from to Sunday morning. If you can't explain that, we ain't got nothing to talk about. Explain to me how you get 3 days and 3 nights from Friday morning or Friday midday to Sunday morning. Then we can talk. It's going to take them a whole 24 years to figure that out. Because it ain't 3 days and 3 nights. So now they got to come with their theories and their theologian doctrine bullshit to justify it.
Look, I'm going to say it before. The reason today I have a lot of friends in the church who are African Americans, even white churches. And they tell me something is wrong. Of course something is wrong, because the church is not your home. It's never intended to be your home.
Is that why you don't hear about it in Revelation? Church as you know it. Go to the book of Revelation and read it. The church as you know it. How you go to church on Sunday, that's going to be no more. Whether you like what I'm saying or not. You can't argue with the facts. And I don't hate this man, even though he is Ashkenazi Jew. He is not a Ben Shapiro. I don't hate guys like this. He's telling the truth.
Your home is the house of Israel. Right. Why would you feel wrong? Why would you feel right in a stranger home? This is not your real home. And today we have a calling as Jews to invite Africa. And when Africa comes, believe me, African American will come because Africa is the root. We